If you're in UK financial services, you know that making compliance work isn't just a tagline, it's the mission. But let's be real. In a world where the rules are always changing, actually pulling that off is a huge challenge. So today, we're going to dig into how companies are tackling this, especially by turning to some very specialized experts.
So how do you keep a business healthy when it's under so much regulatory scrutiny? Well, let's meet the doctors who specialize in diagnosing and, treating these complex compliance issues.
And here's a perfect example of that kind of specialization. You've got the main company, compliance consultant, and then their specialist team who are actually known as the compliance doctor. Their entire focus is on the regulatory health of financial firms. And it really is a full-time challenge. The regulatory world is never static. The Financial Conduct Authority, the FCA, is constantly demanding more, especially around things like consumer protection and making sure businesses are resilient. It all creates this incredibly high-stakes, high-pressure environment to operate in.
Okay, so what does all that pressure actually look like day to day? Let's break down the real problems that financial firms are dealing with right now.
This number, wow, it tells you everything you need to know. We're looking at a 24% jump in FCA enforcement actions recently. Now, that's not just a statistic, is it? It's a massive red flag from the regulator basically saying that just reacting to problems isn't going to cut it anymore.
And if you don't have that proactive support, the risks just stack up so fast. Firms end up in this constant game of catch-up. You can get these huge knowledge gaps around really important rules like the senior managers regime or SMCR and the new consumer duty. Miss just one little update and it can spiral into a whole bunch of compliance failures.
So when you're facing all these risks, what's the go-to solution? And maybe more importantly, what does it really cost your business? For a lot of businesses, the first thought is, okay, let's just hire a full-time compliance manager. But the actual cost of doing that, it's often way, way more than just the salary you see on paper. And this just lays it out so clearly. Look at the difference. On the left, you've got the potential total cost of hiring someone in-house. And on the right, an outsourced solution, like a retainer. The gap between those two numbers is absolutely huge.
So here's how it all adds up. That £60,000 salary, that's just where it starts. Then you've got to pile on national insurance, pension, recruitment fees, all the training and tools they'll need, plus covering for them when they're on holiday or off sick. Suddenly, the true cost to the business is easily clearing £100,000 a year.
So what's the alternative? Let's take a look at how an outsourced compliance solution is structured. The whole idea is to give you that senior-level expertise without the crazy cost and the risk of relying on just one person. And this is exactly where that retainer model fits in. What you get from a company like Compliance Consultant is essentially an entire outsourced team. So that means expert advice on tap, someone always scanning the horizon for new rules, plus practical tools like templates, all for one predictable monthly fee. And these services are usually tiered, which makes a lot of sense. So a bronze package might cover all the basics. A silver level could give you more proactive management. And then the gold tier, that often feels like having a dedicated strategic partner right there with you, giving advice at the board level. So it's not just about the cost, right? It's about what you're getting for your money. You want to look for real signs of quality. Things like deep experience. We're talking 25+ years in the game. Full regulatory coverage and industry recognition, like being a member of a trade body like the APCC. That's how you know you're getting genuine senior expertise. Because at the end of the day, you don't want theory, you want practical advice that actually works. This quote from a client says it all, doesn't it? They love the practical approach and the fact that the advice works in the real world, in a commercial environment. It's about getting solid guidance that's backed by people who've actually been there and done that. So after looking at all of this, what's the big takeaway? Let's think about the key questions a firm should be asking itself when facing these challenges.
And that really brings us to the heart of it. The old way of doing things, just hiring in-house, is being seriously challenged by these much more flexible outsourced models. So the question for any firm is pretty simple. Which path is going to be the most effective and the most efficient for managing your regulatory duties?
Ultimately, making compliance work is a big strategic choice. The right path really depends on your firm's size, its complexity, and your goals for the future. For anyone who's interested in exploring that outsourced model we've been talking about, the details for Compliance Consultant, the firm we used as our example today, are right there on the screen. Thanks for joining us.